Howdy. So my last video, I gave you 4 blogging tips, and they were really for beginners. Now I've got 2 more that are really for beginners, and then 2 more that I'm going to say are intermediate. They're probably for beginners as well, but they're things that if you already have started blogging but you haven't gotten that far, they won't hurt you to know. So let's go over those first 4. I'm just going to mention them, and then I'm going to link back to that other blog in case you want to go check those out. So with the first round, I talked about asking yourself why you want to blog. The second question was, do you actually like writing? Period. Forget about blogging, but do you like writing? Then the next one was, do you want to write the content on your blog? Or do you want to hire someone else to do it? Or something to think about. And then the final thing was talking about domain names, as far as what do you actually want your blog to be called, or if it's for your business, what are you going to do with it? So like I said, I'm going to link to that one so you can check that out further. But now let's look at 4 more blogging tips. So the first one you need to think about is free versus self-hosted. And I think that's important because long term, I think you should be paying for your own blog. Now, if you're already paying for your website, say you already have a business website, then all you need to do is add what they call a subdomain to it and title it blog, or title it, your business name's blog or whatever. And you're already paying for it, so you don't have to pay anything extra. If you're not doing that and you're looking to make money or do whatever, then you should probably pay for it, because that gives you the freedom to pretty much say anything you want, to add as much as you want. And, like I said, it's your space. Now, if you're not sure about blogging long term, you're wondering, can I write all that I'm looking to write? Can I really do this? Am I going to stick with it? Then it doesn't hurt to start with a free platform. Now, the 2 most common are Blogspot and WordPress.com. Those are the 2 most common. And the thing with both of those is that it's hard to sell stuff, because if you get too salesy, they'll clamp down on you. And one of the things that happens sometimes is that they'll just shut you down and tell you, hey, yeah, we shut you down because we don't like what you did. And now you've lost all your content, you've lost your pictures and whatever, unless you're someone like me who saves a lot of that stuff. If you don't save any of that stuff, then it's just gone, and now you have to start all over again, and it's problematic. You probably hate yourself for that. But if you're looking to see, okay, can I do this, then go ahead and start there. Because one of the things you can do later on is you can take that content back and, repost it on your new blog. Now, you'll want to wait some time. This is like more of an intermediate to better blogging, longer term blogging, knowledge, is that you can write something on one space, decide, what, I'm going to move it elsewhere. So you basically copy it somewhere, you make that post private on that particular blog, then you wait a couple of weeks, and then you repost it, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and then you repost it. It gives Google a chance to say, hey, this stuff is now gone, and you move it over. Even if they haven't totally caught up with it, what you should probably do is you move stuff over and you alter some things here and there. One of the things I do these days is I'm going back through some of my older posts that actually I thought were pretty good, and if most of the people who commented are no longer around, and unfortunately that's just the truth of blogging, then I'm repurposing that. I'm re-editing it, and I'm making it fresh, and I'm putting it out there. Not the only thing I do, but it's one of the things I've started to do. You know what? I got almost 1,400 blogs, articles on I'm Just Sharing. So I want to share some of that stuff. I don't want to just to die at 10 years. Very few people are going back to 2008, 2009 articles that I wrote. So if I can refresh some of that stuff, it's a good thing to do. So free versus self-hosted. That's the first thing you need to think of. The next thing is talking about blog platform. So now you've decided, hey, I think I want to self-host my own blog. Okay, now, how do you want to do it? The 2 most popular are WordPress, not WordPress.com, but it's WordPress.org, where you download the software, or something called Joomla. Now, I will admit, I really don't understand Joomla all that well, although I write for my consulting group's website. I write articles for that blog, a lot of them. Some of the other members contribute, but I write the majority of it. And that's on Joomla. And the person who created the website, she actually is the one who formatted the blog and set it all up. And it's not bad, but WordPress is the easiest thing in the world to do. As a matter of fact, if you decide you want to blog, they have this thing where you basically hit a button and it loads the entire blog within 5 minutes. Sometimes it's less than 5 minutes if you have a fast connection. And it's easy. And there's thousands of templates that you can use. They call them themes, but I'm just saying templates. There's thousands of them, literally tens of thousands. And at that point, you can decide whether you want to pay for a theme or whether you just want to go find a free one and use. I'm not getting into that right now. We can do that later. I'm not necessarily even sure that that's a big thing, except for one thing. And like I said, I will mention that another time. But that's a big thing. Like I said, if you go with the free version, actually you can get used to WordPress by using WordPress.com. And the Blogspot has its own, way of doing things. But like I said, it depends on whether you want to control all your information or whether you want to see if you're ready to blog at all. So that's the first 2 points. Now let's get into a little intermediary thing, which is how to handle titles. So basically we're talking about titles of articles, and you have a lot of people who are going to give you a lot of thoughts on this. And these are mine, although I don't necessarily follow it. I'm just being honest. Most people will say that you should write your titles so that the search engines are going to know exactly what you're writing about. You will get people's mindset into this, and they're going to come in droves, and they're going to, love your stuff. That ain't totally true. Some of it is true. For instance, if you're writing a list post, well, look at this, for instance. My last video I called 4 blogging tips for beginners. That's a great blog title. But every once in a while, I like to write titles that are more like a book title or a story title. Because a lot of times I consider myself more of a storyteller than I do a blogger, which is really odd. So think about a book like To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't know if most of you have read it, but if you have, you realize there's only one line in the entire book that talks about killing a mockingbird. And that's where the title came from. And it's somewhere closer to the end of the book than in the middle or at the beginning of the book. Sometimes that's just how these things work. You can still get your point across through how you write your article, but you don't always need to lead with this other thing that tells everyone exactly what it is, unless that's what you want to do. Now, one of the other issues is that a lot of people will tell you you should think about your title before you start writing anything, and I disagree with that. I mean, I basically sometimes write off the cuff. I have my ideas. I almost never had writer's block. So I like to write everything first and then go back through it and decide on a title. So that's my thought. I think that if you spent like an hour or two thinking about a title, oh my God, that's just too much work. See if you can write something first and then go back and add a title. That's my thought. Anyway, let's look at the last one, which is style of writing. This is important because you need to decide whether you want to write like a professor or a high school teacher or a third grader. You need to decide whether you want to tell stories like I like to do, or whether you want to give tips and highlight everything, through an outline way of going, or if you want to be like a newscaster. You have to really decide on your style. I started off, when I started blogging on my business blog back in 2005, I really had no idea of style or anything like that. So some things I put out there sounded okay. Some other things, the information was okay, but it was like I was telling the news. And every once in a while, I did tell a story. And it wasn't until I got my I'm Just Sharing blog, where after pretty close to a year, I found a style of writing. And it works well for me. And so a lot of times I do it in a storytelling mode. Like I said, I do have those articles where I will list like 10 things here, or 9 things there, or whatever, just like I've done for these first 2 blogs specific to blogging. So I sometimes do that, and those take a lot longer to write, believe it or not. But if you tell stories, it's fine if you can tell a story. Hopefully you can tell a story. Most people can tell at least some kind of story, and you can relate it to almost anything. There was a lady named Laura Stack, and she was president of the National Speakers Association for a while. And she came to Syracuse, and I went to hear her speak. And I didn't know who she was beforehand. I knew she was the president of the thing, but I went to see her speak, and I got in free because I was like an interim member of the National Speakers Association. And she was wonderful. I'm telling you, you know what? These folks really know their stuff. One of these years, I may, join it again full time. I don't have a lot of years left, but I need to think about that. Anyway, one of the things she said is that you can take any topic whatsoever. If you have an idea of what your niche is, what you really know, she said, I write on productivity. I'm known as the productivity pro. But if someone wants me to come and speak to a group of divorced women, yes, I say yes. I can talk on that because I can add, productivity to that. They want me to speak to a lot of athletes. Yes, I can do that. Well, I do that with blogging. I do that with writing. I do that with motivation. I find, different inspiration and I apply it to how I write. It works well with storytelling. Doesn't work so well if you're doing a list post, if you're basically highlighting everything, or if you're doing a tutorial. It doesn't work as well to tell a story, and yet every once in a while you can have a storytelling component as part of that. Anyway, that's those 4 points this time. I told you what the 4 points were last time. We got another video coming out next Sunday, and it's going to be once again on the topic of blogging. And like I said, we're going to step them up now. So we've taken care of the new things, and now we're going to move on to things that maybe if you're newer, you're already doing it a little while. Now we're going to get into a different type of tip. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I hope y'all have a wonderful week.